smashing down teams. So, Jamada, as I welcome you into your first LPL pick ban, we're going to keep that in mind that WE need to get this stuff together. But against V5, it's going to be a hard ask because V5 are starting on blue and already losing themselves things like the Wukong, the center, that we saw dominate RNG in their last series.
Yeah, so a lot of those key picks already taken off the board. Curious to see. I mean, yeah, I think 12-11 Zeri, typically red side is almost permaban, so you don't get to see it frequently. But we're actually going to get to Leah, which I feel like on this patch, maybe not presently as strong as she was on 12-10, but still V5 showing a lot of priority on that pick, and of course should enable Dream to make it towards that side, towards those side lanes to again set up for the likes of Photic and PP God to continue to have a very strong 2v2 lane.
And something we didn't talk about in draft opening up is Xiaolong Bao starting today for V5. You know, a bit of a change here for one of the top teams in the LPL. He's played only one series before as the Wukong. But on the other side, Shanks doing the same over Xie here in game number 1. And remember, the comp we saw that we liked was Shanks on this Taliyah was that roaming mid laner to affect bots. So maybe a key takeaway here from V5 as WE start setting up the merits of a strong bottom lane here with Beisheng's Lee Sin and the Aphelios Xing.
Yeah, so I mean, oh wow, it feels like we're watching a spring draft right between the AD carries, Jinx, Aphelios. Norlis is going to come in alongside that. I wonder if we're just going to get Hero on something like the Bronze to try and shut down that 2v2 from the get-go. You would have a very, very strong 3v3 bottom side because you should be able to ban out 2 more junglers if you do go down this route. Of course, have the opportunity maybe to pick up a champion for Shanks. Maybe something like the Azir could fit well just because you then set yourselves up for late game team fighting, a little bit of mid lane priority to try and contest that Taliyah in the early game, but we're just going to get hard engaged. Very LPL, Leona into that Norlis, and we're going to go into the second ban phase. I expect W to try and shut down the jungle pool a little bit.
Yeah, you're right though. It is spring draft, isn't it? Like we get Leona Norlis going head to head, Aphelios Jinx, like a bit of a take back in time. And you were just mentioning before as we go on the second draft phase, I mean, we don't have any solo laners here for WE. We still need Rich's top. What do you want to see banned out here? Because I feel like when we already have decent engage, we are a bit more flexible in those solo lanes for both teams.
Yeah, so actually the Blanc ban's going to come out. So on 12-11, what did end up happening, if I recall correctly, is Taliyah got a couple of wide scoping changes, which definitely shifted her power a little bit more into the jungle. So I wonder if W are kind of reading into this and saying, okay, Xiaolong Bao could be taking this Taliyah into the jungle instead. So they're going to try, and like you said, pick on the solo lanes, try and remove some of the setup that can work well with Taliyah, as Ahri is also going to be taken off the board. So they're just, both these teams trying to shut down the mid 2v2, targeting both Shanks and Dream champion pools for now.
Makes sense when Shanks and Dream, you know, going along similar lines in the champion pool as well. I just note that when Shanks has only played his 3 games of this split over Xie, Swain, Azir, and Corki. You already talked about the Azir before, but you also wanted to see maybe where the priority could take him. We get an R-ban against Rich, which makes sense after what we saw in the last series, but I want to finish this off with V5 because we had mid lane focus towards Shanks. We know that Bubu's Camille is still up, but they stick towards the mid lane champion pool, leaving top exposed.
Yeah, and I mean, I feel like W right now, I think Swain would maybe be the best bet in terms of what's up and available. It can provide a whole bunch of space for the Aphelios to get his work in. But if W want to prioritize the mid 2v2 so that they can move down as a duo towards Xing, towards heal, then picking up something like the Sejuani Blind, definitely a very safe thing to do. The issue is I feel like Rich is probably going to have a plethora of picks ready and available to go into it. Something like the Aatrox, yeah. Just because you can drain tank inside of that lane. Very easy to run into it. And realistically, Bubu isn't going to have too many facets to shut it down. And it seems like V5 are just going to round out with the Silas. On top of that, loads of strong ultimates to pick up the Sejuani ultimate, the Leona as well, to try and find some more picks. You already have so much engage through the Nautilus and even the Taliyah wall. Stacking that on top of Silas being able to take away those engage ultimates is going to be super powerful for them.
But you've been in the LPL for what now, like 5-10 minutes, and you've already predicted one draft here. So nice call, Xiaolong Bao taking out the Taliyah in the jungle in the end. Again, something we really haven't seen much here in the LPL in the past couple of days, unless I'm mistaken. But Corki gets locked in. That's the final round out. Strong mid 2v2. We don't get as such here, Jamada, but at least for WE, a bit of scaling as I want you to run me through, starting with their draft.
Yeah, no, I think W for sure, they're just looking to play towards that sort of 2.5, 2 item power spike, because beyond then, that's when, you know, the Aphelios and the Corki really come online, have their own agency. And I think I'm looking at W and I'm saying, how are you going to protect yourselves against what should be a hyper proactive early game for V5 with the Talia, with the Silas? You know, Silas, a pick that actually sometimes on occasion would be picked into Corki anyway to try and shut him down in the early phases. When you've got Talia there as well, who can be a very strong skirmisher and shuts down some of the mobility with the Unraveled Earth, it's going to be hard for them to stand up to it in the early game. It's about surviving that first 15, 20 minutes of aggression from V5 for me.
Okay, well, surviving the first 15, 20 minutes is the early game that WE needs to then move into a snowball for the mid game. Remember that we talked about WE's mid game being one of their weakest parts. They kind of come to a standstill, stop, and the game's lost from there. If the early game can't be under wraps, if they can't control themselves, Jamada, I have a lot of fear coming through here. I feel like we had fear anyway. With V5 going up against WE, it is 2nd versus 16th. There is a 14-team gap between the two. As we enter Summoner's Rift, V5, as Jamada just said, have themselves an early game that's going to try and ramp up. So we're going to see if WE can hold fast or if V5 do what they always do and beat their enemy to a pummel in the first 15, 20 minutes of our Summoner's Rift game.
Yeah, and let's not make you know, any misconceptions here. V5, whilst yes, you know, 1-to-1 they do get outscaled, I think realistically they're always going to have so many agency tools, engage tools to get fights going that I'm not sure it's going to be that much of an issue, especially when Shanks and Jing are likely going to have to kind of just sit on their hands until they hit their items. We'll see. Oh, Flash comes in.
All right, well, the aggression begins now, and it won't be an issue if we keep seeing plays like that. That support flash for Shings, he's forced out a blue side, being very defensive right now. And as the ward gets dropped in, Beisheng sticking to the top side anyway, but at the very least, you know that V5 now have an opportunity in bot, which we said was WE's focus.
Yeah, and let's be real as well. For V5, it's just such easy setup now towards that Aphelios, right? Nautilus hook into the auto attack, then all of a sudden you get knocked up by the Talia. You can almost get 100-0'd just with that burst damage alone in Days of Old. So I'm expecting V5 now to put a whole bunch of early threat to try and shut down the Aphelios even more than they were probably likely planning.
Well, let's set it up with jungle pathing, right? Because we see trading in the bottom lane. It's going to continue as everyone expects, but PP God's still looking for that dredge line as he finds it onto heal, and Photic follows him up. Jamada, I wanted to ask you a little bit about Beisheng here because his blue side is warded. He's pathing towards the bottom lane, but he's going to be easily tracked.
Yeah, should be easily tracked. He really does have to cover this bottom side, I think. With Jing not having the flash, if he's not there to try and make these 3v3s a consistent factor so that V5 have a much lower success rate at making ganks work, you're just going to see all-ins consistently.
Oh my god, the Ignites down the dredge line at melee range. PP God with the Hex Flash, that was beautiful. Shing gets autoed to death. V5's bottom lane. Jamada, that's how it begins.
Oh boy, and I mean, look at the wave as well. It's stacked up, it's going to crash. Shing is going to miss just about everything here. It's a disaster start. And the thing is, the Talia's pathing down as well. So what you're going to end up seeing is Photic and PP God there. Well, actually, PP God's roaming towards the mid lane. Photic will get a reset, and then that wave will bounce back out. Oh, he's dancing around Vision so well.
And it's gone to Doctor's there as well on top of Shanks to connect the dredge line. He doesn't flash it. Shanks needed to flash earlier. PP God picks up the kill. 2-0 in 2.5 minutes. Jamada going from bad to worse.
Oh, it's going from bad to worse so quickly. We'll get a replay of the bottom side play, and it's just a Hex Flash on top of Jing. Just stepping too far forward. There's no brush control coming in from WE because they just don't have the ability to step up without Aphelios' flash. And it's just as easy as that for V5. Photic picks up his kill. They get that wave crashed in, and this bottom lane wave is going to bounce back towards V5 as well. This control ward at the very least will spot out XLB and PP God as they walk into the river. Skullcrab's going to get secured at the very least, so a minor win, I guess, for W. But again, now all Photic has to do is let this wave slow crash into him, and you'll see Aphelios is going to be super uncomfortable for the next 2 minutes. I wouldn't be surprised if Beisheng actually just walks into lane with heal and shoves this wave in as a 3.
You need to. Shing's still without those summoners. 2.5 minutes for the flash, and he's level 2, 10 CS. Now, 21 is the CS of Photic with that first blood under his belt. He's not only leading, but he's continuing to dominate as Beisheng doesn't go for the shove here, Jamada. Instead, tries to position for a gank, but Photic playing safe with PP God taking his back. And therefore, nothing that WE can find here with a 1k gold disadvantage already.
Yeah, I think the important thing, just trying to cover, right? Even if you're not going to try and shove in the lane to make it a slightly faster reset, perhaps. Just ensuring that Talia's not getting a very free gank towards your summonerless AD carry is the important thing. But V5 across the board, it's not just the bottom lane, which was the problem. PP God immediately getting that roam off towards the mid lane to try and get things going for Dream as well, who we've already highlighted as having a pretty strong start to the regular split. It's just probably going to get even worse as, again, this is the kind of matchup where Sylas would on occasion be picked into Corki just because you have the setup to try and shut him down. You dash forward, even if the Valk comes in, you can always follow him with the chains.
And you can match at level 6 as well, adding a bit of range yourself. So as we see V5 leading this early game, note that Beishang keeps trying to find an angle to recover, but his Dredge line is about to come through again with a Hex Flash. This is so predictable. A good zap from Photic. Heal is able to get out without much scuffling further, but the wave's getting pushed up against the turret. Heal and Xing still playing so cautiously with 19 CS to 43. Wave coming in, but that doesn't mean that Xing's going to be able to pick it all up, and Beishang continues to hover around this bot lane that we wanted WE to play around here, Jamada, but what can he do?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like this is either a dive or it's set up for a dragon. Either or, it's just going to feel super uncomfortable for Xing and Hill as they collect the majority of this wave. Actually, pretty safely. Very surprised that V5 don't look to pull the trigger here, considering that there's still a couple of seconds left up on the flash of this Aphelios. But instead, they will just turn around towards the dragon and pick this one up pretty uncontested. WE, like you said, just not really much they could do after the early start.
And I want to point out that part of the reason is because V5's warding has been sublime. It's the warding in the entrance towards mid lane in that top side, Jamada, where Beishang was spotted out. Dream pulls all the way back, plays safe. Bot side as well, another deep ward placed in. And I feel like part of it is PP God, part of it is just V5, as they always do, have really good jungle tracking and seem to be able to read WE to a T.
Yeah, and I think it's just a good read in terms of the matchup as well. As I think I'm going to have to hold my point.
Well, maybe that proves me wrong. Glacier Prince is going to be used. Ultimate from Rich as well, but he's turning it around onto Bubu. Hang on a minute. The Sejuani might get tackled here, but Rich is holding on to the flash. Excuse me, it's already burnt. V5 managed to get themselves out of that top side, and Rich will be safe at the cost of his summoner, but Bubu burned his ult and one of his own.
Yeah, I think crucial thing there was Beishang Sonic Wave actually hit and execute a creep as opposed to finding his way onto Rich. Otherwise, Rich could have maybe found himself in a little bit of trouble there, but I'm not sure there was enough damage to actually take him down. But like I say, it costs his flash, costs his ult, and we'll just walk away from it. Still get the wave. WE, a minor win, I suppose, if you can make it back to the top side and actually try and capitalize on that summonless Aatrox. But again, even then, in that moment, Dream had first move up towards the top side. Had that play overextended, Dream would have likely responded and picked up a kill at the very least, given how deep they would have had to have dove for it. V5 just sitting comfortably, regardless. Even if WE are trying to make proactive play, it seems like they're always going to be able to respond to it for now.
And every time we see Beishang try and make one of those plays, we see the Xiaolongbao inches ahead. A bit of a CS gap brewing now because Xiaolongbao hasn't really had to cover any of the waves. He's appeared bot once, but apart from that, keeps on clearing. And it's that priority here that V5 have created, Jamada, that WE are losing out naturally in gold. It's grown to 1,500. And those 2 kills still exist. It was 1K when we saw PP God get the second kill on mid, but it's just naturally over time growing, where for WE, you said they wanted to get to this late game stage. You said they wanted to get past the early game of V5, but right now it's looking really hard when we can't even see how they can contest something as light as Rift Herald with V5's early lead and their vision control alongside it.
Yeah, and I will say it is definitely kind of the nature of the composition that WE have drafted for themselves, right? Corki isn't going to be, you know, this lane priority king in the mid lane into the likes of the Sylas, especially when you're having to deal with the Sylas setup alongside the Talia. If Beishang isn't there to always cover, it's going to look really hard to actually contest that. Right now, WE, though, setting up towards the bottom side, Photic and PP God actually doing a really good job of taking away the cross-map jungle camps. As I expect WE know they're going to be giving up this Herald. So just give over the red buff. Dream also covering the dive too. Decent response.
I think decent response is the right wording here, right? But Dream not getting the blast cone over the wall maybe would have been a different story to avoid the tri-brushes. Beishang still sticks around. Now, Photic is level 6, but Xing is too, with heal Solar Flare up and available. Beishang, the kick against the wall, has to be everything. Solar Flare and Photic, he flashes next to his support. They turn onto Beishang. The 2v2 does it by themselves while Dream steals the Solar Flare. Heal away, he's already burnt the flash. Shanks is joining in, but the Weaver's wall is going to bring in Xiaolong Bao, and he's in the line of fire. Beishang first, heal next. Victory 5, they are insane.
And this is what I mean. V5, their play is actually towards the Herald, right? But they're still able to have Xiaolong Bao come eventually and respond. And this is because WE takes so long in trying to make this dive work, right? They deny the wave. And this is why I said it was such a decent response from V5, taking away the red buff. They're not there to get dove initially. WE reshove the wave and try and dive anyway. But at this point, it's just an overstay. The teleport comes in from Dream. It's almost immediate before the dive even really gets started. Beishang gets dredge lined up, really great chain CC there. And yeah, heal as well, not really able to get things going on the dive. And then you eventually see Talia comes in, shuts down the play. The Weaver's wall is able to cut everybody off, and only Shanks is able to back out of that play. 2 kills going over to Talia, who was already farming up pretty well.
And it's funny that I see Dream on this Silas when, you know, the last match I cast, Jamada, was V5 versus RNG. V5 RNG in Top Esports versus FPX. And in Top Esports versus FPX, I got the same vibes from Knight where the TPs are early. They're on point. The Silas play turns everything around as well. And even though V5's bottom lane did that inherently by themselves, it's still nice to see that V5 had this cohesion that we talk so heavily about WE not having. It's night and day in this first game, and with a 3k gold lead, it is easy to continue talking up V5 right now as they already have a dragon. They're going to look to get another one as well, and it doesn't feel to be slowing down anytime soon.
No, and they also have the Herald on top of that. To snowball this gold even further. And I mean, talking to snowball, it looks like they're just going to look towards Jing.
Oh no, it's a depth charge, it's a knockback, and Photic gets the kill credit. Thumbs in the air, he's 87 CS, he might have caught up, but I don't think it matters. This Rich ulti's up in the top lane, but Arctic Assault from Bubu gets him away. But at the very least, that bottom side play, Jamada, will enable V5 to start up the straight.
We'll start up. Hexflash coming in, actually, WE.
Yeah, Xiaolong Bao flashes away, but he's stretched line in. Shanks down the line of fire once again, and Photic has the range. 1 auto, 2 autos. Photic without his ulti, but Dream's coming in off the side. The Zap slows down heal as Dream's ready to engage, and Beishang wants an angle, but he won't find it. Seismic shove for heal as the dredge line gets him close. The Zap on Shanks, the auto. PP God, secure it for me.
Ignite him.
He's so close. The dredge line, he steals. Dream, yes, the auto. That'll do it here for a 7-0 start.
Oh boy, yeah. V5 just running over this one, and W, you can kind of understand wanting to contest in a small world because you have the package, but I mean, just let it go, right? You already lost your AD carry. It's going to be a numbers disadvantage no matter what. Kind of just giving V5 more gold to work with after this fight. 2 dragons. Yeah, like you say, it's a 5k gold lead pretty much. It's just looking rougher and rougher. I'm just not too sure. I mean, W, again, the thought process is they have package. They're going to technically be able to potentially burst down Xiaolong Bao immediately, but he's able to get out of that one with the flash. Shanks has to immediately retreat as he dives too far forward with the package. Heal gives over his life, thinking he's going to keep Shanks alive, but eventually it just comes down to Dream stealing away that ultimate and getting a snipe of his own onto the Corki.
Heading up a perfect game here, Jamada, for your first one of the LPL. As Bubu, I think he just took the rocket from Photic and manages to survive. So even topside is not going that well. 30 CS down here on the Sejuani versus the Aatrox. Mid is now facing up a 2-0 Silas with Everfrost. I could keep going through and listing the item differences, but that's going to change again as Herald is charging bottom lane and B5 are sweeping out Vision, and WE are backing all the way back off.
Yeah, all right. Seems like in our picture-in-picture, he was already low. Did he get the battle rocket? I think he's got the frost armor on, so he just doesn't get executed. That's kind of fortunate and unfortunate for Photic, you know.
Like 10 HP or something, though.
Yeah, that was kind of ridiculous. Sejuani passive, saving Wee's life. But yeah, I mean, V5 just slingshotting the gold even further ahead, right? Herald going to get Photic a couple more plates in his back pocket. That second Herald charge actually does go off as well. So now that tower on the bottom side, half HP, 600 gold, basically standing gold for whenever V5 decide to go and attack it. Now it seems like the angle of attack is going to just be towards this mid lane.
I mean, 30 seconds left of plating. This gold lead is immense. We saw a perfect game yesterday, I believe. But we're facing up the barrel of another one here against WE. Victory 5 acting like that top 2 team that we expect of them with what we've seen. Plating going across multiple lanes. Gold lead has plummeted up yet again. 6,500 here. is what we're looking at as plates fall down. The early game's been a massive success, Jamada, and I guess I've got to ask you what V5 need to do, or little they need to do, to continue this snowball rolling into this mid-game.
I mean, I feel like right now they can just continue to do what they have been doing, right? Move Photic around the map and take down these towers one by one. You're at a really nice point in the game where you're 14 minutes in, so you've kind of got 6 minutes to work with before Baron's on the map. So you can kind of just turn these towers into, you know, what you're playing for. Realistically, you don't have to worry about, you know, that big purple worm just yet. It's not something that W can maybe try and flip until it actually spawns up. So just moving across the map, getting Jinx to her power spike. Because again, we kind of spoke about how Team W's comp 1-to-1 technically outscales, right? You've got the Corki, you've got the Aphelios. Obviously, you always have that debate between whether Jinx or Aphelios scales a little bit harder into the late game, but we've seen what Corkis can do once they hit their items. V5 don't want to get to that point in the game, so taking down those towers so that once you do get to the point where Baron's on the map, and if you pick it up, you're not really going to have to worry about taking those towers outside the base. You're just looking towards the base itself.
And it was worth asking, right? Because for WE, I was looking for some hopium here, but it does feel more like copium, to be frank. V5 is taking down yet another turret while we're talking.
Yeah, it's a strong huff of copium
yeah.
for WE here.
Oh, here we go again.
Yeah, I think it might be if somebody decides to face check into that bush, man. It's not worth it. Dream's going to take down this tier 1. And not only that, they still have the Herald to work with as well. So I think V5 just cruising through this sort of early to mid-game transition for now. If they want to use that Herald for the bottom side tier 2, just get Photic the gold. I think that would maybe be the safest thing to do, unless you find yourself a very strong skirmish and then you're able to use it on the backhand of that play. I think that's what I'm likely expecting to see from V5 here. Dragon in 20 seconds. I just don't want to see WE contested, to be honest. And I think given where Shanks is right now, given where Beishang is as well, I'm not too confident that they're actually going to look to play for him.
No, of course not. And, you know, here in the LPL, Jamada, you don't have to be like, you know, I always ask about what another team can do, because it's interesting, right? When a team's in this position like WE, who have been having a horrendous start to the split, much like they did in spring where they finished 15th out of 17. Hi, nice steal. Okay, Beishang wants Dream, who flashes away, at least trying for something here and trying to get their objective bounty while Dragon goes down. A worthwhile trade, but still, they're not able to get it. Turret stays standing, and it's only Dream's flash, which he hasn't really required as apart from being aggressive in this game. V5 are going to use that time to pressure mid with the Herald. You talked about a skirmish that, well, it nets something. It nets people being on the wrong side of the map.
Yeah, I mean, the skirmish is WE going towards that top side, trying to, I guess, cross-mac the Dragon at best, but now the Herald gets dropped in the mid lane, and not only is it going to take the tier 2, it's going to get a second charge. 17 minutes basically cresting into the game. They could even just take the tower and maybe go for kills.
Oh, Dredge line as well. PP God, the depth charge up. He's been having a great game. How that hook connected, I don't know, but PP God, you can see through the matrix. There goes the inhibitor through the mid lane. WE on a true defensive path this game with 0 kills, 0 turrets, 0 options given to them with 9k against them at 17 minutes. This is a masterclass, and this is a huge challenger versus bronze diff, if we put it in solo queue terminology.
Yeah, this is just V5 playing by the books. Again, from draft, they gave themselves all of the agency tools they needed, right? The Nullis on the bottom side, the Talia to always be able to respond to side lane plays. Just the ability to, you know, kind of walk over WE, who in reality effectively gave themselves a draft where they're just going to be waiting, right? Again, for these item spikes to come in so that they can play the game with the Corki, with the Aphelios, take down this inhibitor. That dredge line, yeah, looks a bit dodgy. I think it's just because it's sort of readjusted and there's that little bit of terrain in between, but Beishang is the mark that is found. They get the inhibitor, and I mean, early on, right, it's actually a pretty early inhibitor, so now WE, you know, huffing the copium, they're going to get a little bit of resource back, but again, it's going to be, in reality terms, a pressure sink that they're going to have to deal with while V5 just siege up on more towers.
But just look how big Photic is already. Level 11 Jinx with a rapid fire cannon. The Q in rocket form hits, and Shanks as an auto takes, you know, 1/8 of his HP. Photic's doing way too much for his own good. Dream, you could say the same. Now picking up his second item as well. And it feels like V5, as they continue sieging topside, they've got all the map in check, because as this 3-man stays standing, WE committing 5 members here, Jamada. Dream's on a flank, and Rich is just having free time with the turret.
Yeah, and I mean, they're missing picking the bottom side. Oh, they're going in!
Well, he had to try, didn't he? He really had to try, and Photic is going to emote him into the ground.
Oh boy, yeah. I mean, even V5 are like missing ping in the bottom side. Like, guys, they're not contesting me. I guess I'll just get the 600 gold for free. Taking the inhibitor tower now. Beisheng, I mean, like you said, they have to try, right? They have to try and find something. But Beisheng was already chunked out to half HP. Tries to go in, immediately one shot. Isn't able to find an insect or anything. The playmaking players. Oh, Shanks.
Or ulti used, Dream, AP scaling, and Shanks gets poked down. It's meant to be a Corki, but you know, he doesn't have the range advantage in this one. 10-0, still no one dies from V5, and it is just getting unwatchable at this point.
Yeah, Abid, you have to imagine in the comms of V5, they're gunning for the perfect game, right? They're just going to go back to base, reset. Baron's going to spawn up now. You imagine they're just going to look to try and take it on spawn, get a replay of what happened here. And Shanks, flashed on by PP God, knock up. And yeah, there's just too much setup. And again, Dream, we spoke about how Silas had so much value here because there were so many strong ultimates for him to already take to layer in Engage. In a more neutral game where perhaps, you know, only having Nautilus would be a little bit of a tough thing to work around, this is far from a neutral game.
Oh, yeah.
They're just able to run over WE.
BB God might not be the one with the bounty. In fact, he's the only one on B5 without one. But he deserves MVP in my eyes this game from how he has played this Nautilus. B5 now on the Baron. Heal going to spot it out, but before Beisheng can get there, this Baron's going to be gone. Depth charge at the ready, or rather not. It's a flash instead. The all-in Engage. Heal caught out as Beisheng jumps in again, but the Weaver's Wall zones them off. It may be messy, but V5 won't care. They'll take mess any day. The weakest WE have been outclassed and dunked down in more ways than just Rich's Aatrox. Zapped down for the quadra kill. Photic deserves it. V5 deserve it. And Jamada, in your first cast of the split, in 21 minutes, V5 will set the record for the shortest game of LPL 2022 summer by a whole 2.5 minutes and make a perfect game a reality against WE until they dive the fountain. But in our eyes, it's still as perfect as anything.
Even the HUD didn't even... Oh! Hey, Beisheng! That's got to count at the very least.
All right. Good enough.
That's rough. That's rough. Losing the perfect game at the very end, going for the tower, go for the fountain dive. But I mean, look, 4v5 there. That was just a by the books game. They understood what W were trying to do. Get to the late game with the Aphelios and the core.